This is more drag than you're ever going to fight a fish with on a sport boat. Well, let's have some fun.
Yeah!
Okay, welcome back to the channel, everybody. Captain Steve of the legend, Nate of H&M Landing's Tackle Shop. We have a selection of 5 different rail rods that we're going to be putting through a little torture test. You can see this contraption that Nate built behind us is kind of simulate fishing on the rail, where you have a big fish on and you are kneeling, pushing down on that rod to get maximum leverage. And what we're going to be doing is tying some weight off to the end. We're going to start with 40 pounds. We're going to jump up to 80, show you the action on that. And then finally, we're going to tap out at 100 pounds on these rods. Now, to put that much pressure on a fish, you have to have a reel that puts that much drag on. So, I mean, what reels even put 40 pounds of drag, Nate?
Yeah, realistically, there's very few that actually are even rated to put out that much drag. Even the ones that can, you're hardly ever going to fish it up in that range. That being said, any of the heavy frame reels, like the ones we're using today are the Abbott EX30s, any of your Penn Internationals, your Okuma Makairas, your accurate ATDs, any of those heavy frame reels typically will put out that much drag. Realistically, even if they can do it, you're probably not going to be fishing anywhere near that range.
Right.
But they are capable of it, so let's show them what it would look like if you did.
Yeah, like when we're kite fishing and we get on the big fish, we'll put a Talica 50 out with our boat rail rods, and I'll probably max that drag out at 50 pounds. I'm not going to hand it to the passenger at 50 pounds of drag. We'll start out at like 30. And we'll bump it up as the fish gets a little more tired and the fight goes on. But 50 pounds of drag is really where we max it out at. So here's our contenders today. We want to start on that side, Nate?
Yeah, so all these are rods that we are using or have used in the past in our rental department. In my hand here, I have 2 Okuma PCHs. In my left hand, I have a 3XH, which is rated 80 to 130. And in my right hand, I have a 4XH. It's rated 80 to 150. So a little bit heavier, really comparable to each other, but both excellent rods.
And right here I have the Taipan. These are like set up for jigging mostly, right?
Yeah,
like,
so this guy actually makes his own blinks, and I believe he's out of Arizona. He makes a fantastic product, and it's a little bit thinner diameter than some of these rods, not quite as heavy in terms of weight and holding it all day long. A killer product, and yeah, we're stoked to see how it bends compared to some of these glass ones.
This one's rated 50 to 100. And then we have the Fishing Syndicate right here, also rated 50 to 100. And then finally, up here we have a Rain Shadow. H&M rental that we're going to be showcasing first. Let's get the testing underway.
Yeehaw.
All right, Rain Shadow blank first.
So kind of a soft tip, but a real heavy backbone.
Okay.
And we'll see how it transitions between the two.
Important feature right here, the grip on the rail. Make sure you're doing that when you're fighting a fish. You might be a little bit further forward, further back, depending on the boat.
So not necessarily the ultimate simulation, but it'll certainly hold a rod with a whole bunch of weight at the end.
All right, to help out the drag of the reel, I'm going to give a little lift and gently let go. And I'm going to get out of the way.
And realistically, that would probably max out the drag of most reels that we're fishing out here.
And you can see it's bouncing. It's giving a little bit of lift here. So like if the angler is giving a little push, it's going to lift and kick right there. So that's when you're fighting the fish. That's where it's going to absorb all the shock. That's where it's going to get your lift from. And just a solid rod. Very good for this nighttime fishing that we've been doing. 40 pounds, bouncing easy. Let's get 80 pounds up in the air, double it. Made it look too easy. Okay, so 80 pounds. What reels even hold 80 pounds of drag?
Realistically, nothing we're fishing here. Yeah, once you get into like your 80s and your 130 size reels, some of those are putting out drag up in that number.
You're going to be using a fighting seat. I mean,
yeah, you would be.
Realistically,
your boat would be fighting
this is more drag than you're ever going to fight a fish with on a sport boat using the rail. Well, let's have some fun. All right. You might want to thumb that spool.
Woo! She holding.
That's 80 pounds. That's more drag than you're ever going to fish on these boats. It is holding it. We're going to give it a little bounce. There you go. You're thumbing the spool. You're fighting it way too hard because you're tired. You're done with this fight. It's either coming up or breaking off, right? You can see where the tip is. It's giving a little bit. That's your backbone of your rod where you're fighting. And that's a lot of drag, guys. That's 80 pounds. Step it up to 100 just because we have 100 pounds of weight. Okay, you ready?
Yup. Yeah. Yeah.
did pretty well.
It did pretty
Honestly,
well.
it held it for a second. But if you're going to be thumbing the spool, rain shadow, 100 pounds of drag, you might lose a fish. Because now you're flipping your rod upside down, you're panicking, and you're fighting a fish like this. Good luck. You see, double San Diego. That's why we suggest the double San Diego knot. And that is the end result of the break. You don't want to see the inside of your rod when you're fighting a big fish.
Actually, to be honest, not exactly where I expected it to break. A lot of times when rods break, they break in between the transition between the glass and the graphite, or they'll break a little closer to the tip. But yeah, this thing really just ate it up.
We got our tie pan up, 7'6" rod, rated 50 to 100 pounds. We're going to start with 40 pounds again. Using a 500-pound clip, 200-pound braid here. All right, I'm going to get my safety glasses on just in case. Lift off. All right. You see quite a different bend here with this this rod.
Yeah, this one you can actually see it's bending all the way down to right above the reel seat right here. The other one kind of stayed stiff up until just above the rail.
Right.
This one's got a little bit more of a parabolic bend all the way through. Pretty cool. Definitely seems to be struggling a little more under 40 pounds of weight than the big glass rod.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely holding.
Give it a little bounce here and show the action. You can see it's where it's kicking right there. It's kicking a little bit deeper in. But like you were saying in the intro of the video, these are thinner rods than all the other rail rods we're going to be testing today. Just overall, the blanket's thinner. So we're going to move up to 80 pounds. A big jump. Oh! Okay. Slowly bend down. Oh, we're barely off the ground still. But we are clear of the ground. You can see that is a lot of bend.
A much different bend than that last rod.
Yeah. I think we're on the ground again, actually. All the way to the tip. I'm a little scared.
Cool. So that one actually broke right at the rail, right where the pressure point was on the rail. Oh, it actually broke the line when it broke. This thing took a beating.
Fishing Syndicate 2X heavy.
2XH.
50 to 100 pound rating. All right. So we're starting off at 40 pounds. Go ahead and get that towards the tip. There we go. And 40 pounds on the Fishing Syndicate. See a good bend in that, but it's holding up pretty strong.
That one eats it pretty good, actually. Bends more similarly to our rain shadow rent rods. Kind of more of the bends coming from above the rail, but you do have a little bit of bend.
Yeah, a little bit of bend right here, but most of it's right here. And we'll give it a little bounce. Show you the action as you're fighting a fish, right? Then you're going to be pushing down, lifting up, and trying to turn the head of that big fish at night that you drop down your 500-gram flat fall or knife jig or whatever. It's just how it's going to handle this 40 pounds of drag. We're going to move up to 80 in this next shot. It's a big jump, we know, but we'll see if it handles it.
So take two, we're up to 80 pounds.
Fishing Syndicate, our swivel's taking a little bit of abuse here. Going up. Oh! Okay. Uh-oh, I hear crackling.
Safe to say, it did not hold 80 pounds.
No, I almost let go all the way.
Yeah, it was pretty close. It had most of the weight on its own.
I assume it looked like it was loading up pretty good. I did not get to look up.
So that one actually broke really similarly to the black and orange rod, kind of right above the rail there.
We have not held 100 pounds successfully yet.
Fair thing to note is we do have it at something of an extreme angle. Yeah. Most of the time when you're fishing this thing on the boat, you're going to have the rod tip either angled slightly down or more or less parallel with the water.
Yeah, this is like you are pulling. And to get 80 pounds of drag, like we said, you're thumbing the spool and pulling.
Yeah, we're more so holding it at this angle for the sake of actually being able to lift that weight off of the ground without the rod bending and hitting the ground.
Here we are with the Okuma PCH 4X.
So these are a tried and true rental rod for us, man. We've had these things in the lineup for a really long time. I think the first couple of years we had them, some guys were killing 200, 250-pound fish on them, and they are absolutely still working. So they withstood the test of time.
We featured this in our first rail rod video, right?
We did.
So it's one of the standouts, wasn't it?
So we used actually the lighter version of this. We used the 3XH, which we're testing in this video as well. This one is the heavier, it's the 4XH. But yeah, it did phenomenally in our last video, so I'm excited to see how it does.
40 pounds in the air. All right. There's a little bend right there.
Yeah, a lot of
much.
bend in this one, actually. It's bending more than I would have expected it to.
Yeah, for a 4X heavy. It's rated, what, 80 to 150, you said?
80 to 150 is the rating.
So.
Again, worth noting that it's tried and true. I mean, it's been bent many, many times, so I don't know if that affects the overall strength over the course of time.
All these rods have been through it. They've all caught fish before they met their demise today. Let's give a little bounce here to show you the action.
Yeah, this one's eating 40 pounds pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
Again, that would absolutely max out just about any of the reels we'd be using on it. So.
Right. I mean, usually we tell guys like a third of the breaking strength of your line for your drags. A 130-pound line, 40 pounds of drag should be plenty, right?
It's definitely plenty.
So
yeah,
that's your 40. Let's jump way up to 80 and torture this thing. You ready? All right. Here we go.
All right, watch your face there, Steve.
80 pounds.
Eats it, baby. It eats 80
Not
pounds.
bad. It doesn't even look like that different than the 40 did, honestly.
No, actually, I would say it's distributing the load pretty well. It's actually bending like all the way into the reel seat here.
All right, let's give it a...
Oh, we jinxed it.
There we go. And look at that break. It's going to be a little bit different than all the other ones. Check that out.
Right in between a guide, yeah.
Here's the results from today. A lot of destruction. 40 pounds, they all held up pretty well. That's pretty much as you're going to put on these rods. You know, you're dropping down your 500-gram knife jig, 40 pounds of drag. If you're above that, that's pretty crazy. 80 pounds. A couple of them held up to 80 and just barely got toasted. 100 pounds, we saw the rain shadow hold 100 for a second before it exploded on us. We decided not to kill the Okuma PCH 3X since the 4X took a dive in the 80-pound range. But all these rods are actually incredible rods. Sure, we broke them all, but we went to the extreme today. We put a lot of angle on them, a lot of weight. Probably wasn't the ideal spot for the rod seat. But if you're fighting a fish, I've definitely seen guys get all the way onto the blink where they're missing the padding of a rail rod. So overall, pretty fair test showing you guys what happened. Your thoughts, Nate?
Yeah, I think that was pretty cool to see. Again, like you said, 40 pounds is really about the max we're going to be fishing any of these things, and all of them held up phenomenally well in that range.
Yeah, you got to see the action on them, the kick on all those.
Yeah, technology has come a long way. I think any one of our grandfathers would be stoked to have a single one of these rods in their hand compared to, you know, just more glass or thicker glass that we used to use back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
These new composite materials do phenomenally well. A ton of lifting power.
Light.
And they're light.
Lightweight,
yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Lightweight, lifting power, flexibility, like that parabolic action that you saw right before they exploded right next to my face. It wasn't terrifying at all. Big thank you to H&M Landing right here, not only for providing the space, but the rent rods, the line, the reels, everything. So thank you, H&M Landing. And as you can see, their rent rods hold up 40 pounds of drag. That's all you're going to need. It's going to work for you guys on your trip. So if you don't have a big, heavy setup to get your dream catch when the big bluefin are biting, step inside H&M, talk to Nate, whoever's behind that tackle desk, and they'll set you guys up with a rent rod to catch the fish of your lifetime. Thank you guys very much for tuning in and watching this torture test. I hope you enjoyed watching them break, taking it to the extreme with these rods. If you guys have any ideas for future videos, drop them in the comments. We want to know. If you guys think we should have done something different, well, be nice when you tell us that.
Be nice. We only have so many rods to break.
Yeah.